Hi everyone, let's talk about the fight against terrorism in Kenya and in East Africa in particular. So let's talk about who is a terrorist according to the locals. So when the fight against terrorism began in Kenya, uh, somebody called me and asked me, who exactly is the US and UK and this anti-terrorism people, who are they looking for? So I told them they're looking for Al Shabaab, they're looking for members of Al Shabaab and people who committed, some of these attacks, like 9/11. And then she was like, no, 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 no. Who exactly are they looking for? And I was like, they were looking for Osama bin Laden, but he's no longer there. And there are a couple of people who, they were killed. So I'm not sure who they are still looking for. That's what I told them. And then from there, I was like, who are they looking for? Because if the answer is not members of Al Shabaab, who exactly is being looked for? Well, turns out, let me tell you who they are looking for. Who is a terrorist in Kenya edition? A terrorist is anybody who does not agree with the government. A terrorist is anybody who does not support the ideology that is dictatorship that is being basically trying to be entrenched by William Ruto. A terrorist is anybody who does not, the politicians don't like. These are government-aligned politicians or politicians who are in government. If they don't like you, you're a terrorist. A terrorist is anybody. It can be anybody. It's the same. It's almost the same thing as DEI over here. Well, like, what is DEI? Who are you targeting? So the ambiguity of who is a terrorist is the reason why this is a failed fight. It's a failed fight because who exactly is a terrorist? Because if everybody is a terrorist, majority of the people who hold the government accountable are terrorists. People who politicians don't like are terrorists. All those diplomats are terrorists. Anybody who doesn't support dictatorship is a terrorist. You already failed. You already failed. So that is a failed fight when it comes to fight against terrorism in East Africa. And then let's go to Nyumba Kumi, which is community policing, the failure that is Nyumba Kumi. So what happened with Nyumba Kumi, they organized a group of 10 men who would basically police the community. And this is a good concept in theory. But what they did is they gave permission to rapists, child molesters to enter people's home. They gave them access. This Nyumba Kumi was access that was given to all these abusers to enter the homes of people in rural areas. And this is particular in areas coast and northeastern, Mboni Forest over there, and basically the coast. And they would go, some of this, so this Nyumba Kumi coincided with, immediately they implemented this Nyumba Kumi, there was an increase in teenage pregnancies. And these men who participated in this Nyumba Kumi, they had access to these homes that are the head of the household is a grandma, taking care of children who maybe are orphans or whose parents, live in the city and they're sending money to this grandma. They got access through Nyumba Kumi. So Nyumba Kumi was an absolute disaster. And they still so part of this Nyumba Kumi also, apart from the teenage pregnancies, they use this model of Nyumba Kumi to terrorize locals during elections. So these chiefs and these locals, they terrorize them. They terrorize people during elections. It's one thing to mobilize people to go and vote. It's another thing when you have now empowered local people in the community with these local aggressive men to just terrorize people's grandmas, because most of these things are taking place in the village. So these are grandmas who are being terrorized, grandparents, even grandpas. They're being terrorized by these groups, by these chiefs, these groups of men who are part of the Nyumba Kumi. They terrorize people. They terrorize people in the village. So it's a failure. It's an absolute failure. And it's important for people from those areas to basically create accounts and get online and tell the US government and tell the UK government and tell this European governments what Nyumba Kumi has done to the communities, how this fight against terrorism was a direct attack of basically everybody. and in particular people who live in rural areas, land grabbing. So because through this Nyumba Kumi, they were able to identify people's lands. Now they're terrorizing people to sell their lands and stealing people's land. So this Nyumba Kumi, this fight against terrorism, did not include locals from those areas. It included people from those areas who live in Nairobi. It did not include locals from those areas, and I don't think they have looked at the effect of what they did, because they were basically destroying existing, it wasn't really existing, but fragile, delicate social fabrics that were protecting children and old men and old women who live in these villages and these small towns. They were being protected by I would say an illusion. It was an illusion of protection, but it existed. These men would not have gained access to some of these homes were it not for the US government, the UK government, and all these European government that participated, that drew up plans in London, in Washington, drew up plans without consulting the actual local people about how to go about some of this community policing. So the amount of damage that has been done in these communities is astronomical, and it's part of the reason Ruto must go, because these countries need to see. They need to see, because the other shoe has not fallen yet. They need to see why those people from those areas go and join these terrorist groups. They need to, not necessarily terrorist group, but they become very aggressive and basically, yeah, I would say join these terrorist groups. It's simply because they were attacked. But they were attacked by just random people who they have no idea who these people are. These people are never planning to come to America or they go to Europe. These people live in the village. This is deep Africa. These people live in the village. They are never gonna come to America. They don't even go to Nairobi. So why are you there? Why are you there aiding local criminals to enter their house? Why are you there? Why are you traveling from from London to go to Africa to aid local militias, local men who are just depraved local men, to enter into people's homes to go and assault their kids, to go and basically increase teenage pregnancies in those areas? Why would you do that? So it's failed. It's completely failed. They did not involve the local people, and people if you come from these particular communities and you live in those areas, I hope you see this. And for me, somebody told me, people normally call me with some of this information. So somebody told me what was happening a couple of years back, where they would send these police officers would go, these anti-terrorism groups, and beat up the whole village. Like, they just randomly beat up people, and you're like, dude, they went to beat up. And I remember one person, was telling me a story of how their grandma got beat up, and they were like, dude, they just showed up and started beating up my grandma, and she's taking care of the cousins, and he's like they don't have anything else. Like, what are they gonna do? Because the kids, somebody has to take care of them, and they live with the grandma. And now these little anti-terror groups went and just decided to just beat them up. They just ambush people in their homes and beat them up and call it anti-terrorism, fighting terrorism. So I'm just doing this video to just highlight. I can say a couple of things, but yeah, I personally get some of the information very detailed. I can prove what I'm saying. So they need to get on online and post their stories, because these are stories, these are real people, this happened to real people. And Ruto must go. He must go. The whole of that group, they're intolerant. Their level of intolerance has been empowered by this anti-terrorism fight. They have been empowered by it. So you gotta go. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.